That's a Shame is brought to you by the people who support us over at patreon.com/shamecity.
If you have $1,
$2.
$1 to spare, join us again at patreon.com/shamecity. Please.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
Hello and welcome to another brand new free episode.
On schedule.
Exactly, just as promised and just as always, of That's a Shame. My name is Declan. You obviously remember me from 2 weeks ago when we did an episode. Opposite me is my co-host Isaac.
Hi.
Who you also definitely remember.
Yeah.
Isaac, how've you been?
Oh man, so up and down. You know, life has its highs, it has its lows. Good on the whole, I would say.
That's good.
I don't like all the clocks changing. I have to say that I'm starting to
You're in
become
Camp
sympathetic to
Hitchens
Peter
here.
Hitchens' view that this is no more than like temporal fascism.
Yeah.
Because it's getting dark at like 3 o'clock. and
It's
that
not okay,
fucking
is it?
sucks.
I've attributed my recent return of like insomnia to it because I think that what happens is like when I get home it's dark.
Yeah.
When I leave it's dark, and when I get home it's dark. And so by the time I get home and I spend sort of like 7 hours or so, it's been dark for so long that the darkness has no bearing on
it's like a
me falling asleep.
sky that doesn't tell your body anything.
No,
about
it
when
doesn't.
It should be doing
like
anything.
I should be like a bird. You put a blanket over the cage and I just pop to sleep. But no, now it's like the blanket's on, but you've got to do some marking.
To fucking mark ahoy. But yeah, all good. Obviously, you know, it's been a while. We were just joking before about that.
We were joshing.
And so sorry about that. Oh God, if I could tell you what's been going on, I
It's
would.
It's not like us.
It's not like us. Consistency is our middle name. We've been up to all sorts. Probably the reason that we stopped recording originally was we moved house.
Yeah.
Well,
you moved out.
conceals
Yeah,
a lot
well, that will probably be
complexity.
a part of the topic of the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, you moved out. You fucked off.
I had enough.
You betrayed us, stabbed us in our fronts, and off you went, taking with you the recording
internet.
equipment, the internet itself. Yes.
I snipped the cable before I left, and I said, "Not without me." There, not without me.
Like salting the earth behind him, like the Allies blowing up bridges on the retreat.
Yeah. And you took well to that. I mean,
I had a phenomenal time.
Sometimes you see people online who sort of go on Twitter to be like, you may have wondered where I was for a couple of weeks. I was on a silent retreat, no technology. And oh my God, I've never felt more connected. Been touching grass, been rolling in it, been eating grass. And whenever I see that people who've done things like that, I feel panic. I feel a sense of real dread that one day I'll mistakenly end up at one of these because in a flash of just ill-considered mind nonsense, I'll think, oh, maybe I should try that, and I will die. Like I will lose my mind.
You would just sort of shrivel.
So much of my mind is outsourced to like the internet.
I'd imagine you much like the train of Amontillado in Thomas the Tank, just bricked up behind a wall, knowing that out there are people surfing the web and you're confined here.
I'd probably start like drawing my own Google in a journal.
Yeah. The trouble with it that I kind of like noticed is that if you leave for maybe even 3 days, it's a completely different place.
The landscape is ever
There's
shifting.
new words, there's new main characters.
Yeah.
I sort of like have only really come to terms with this properly because I've been seeing someone new and she's totally offline.
Wow.
Completely offline.
What, as in like not even social media?
No social media.
She's serial killer.
Well, we'll come to this.
Okay.
But
God.
she has, I think, Facebook, but I don't.
That doesn't
it's weird
count,
that it
does
doesn't
it?
count.
That's
right?
actually worse
That's
than
the
having
one.
none.
Yeah. And again, I think it's mostly just like mine, which is sort of left over and is now just a kind of weird way, like an underground network for people to get in touch.
Mine's a gallery of freaks.
Yeah, well, you know how
There's
like
many people still use
you know how Sherlock Holmes uses the homeless to just pass
yeah.
messages. That's how I think of Facebook now. But other than that, nothing.
Is she into the metaverse? Maybe she's like trying to
she's gonna get ahead of us.
3.0.
Yeah. No, but it's like I love it, to be honest. It's a refreshing.
It's probably quite good.
It's a refreshing experience and it's really nice. But it does mean that sometimes I'll go to say something and I'll be like, not even the concept,
Yeah.
but just 3 of the words I was going to say need at least 10 minutes of
Imagine
history.
explaining like milkshake duck.
That
or
was
something.
exactly
Wasn't
what I
it?
explained this
That's
weekend.
really good.
It's like, I was gonna, because I can't remember what we were talking about, but I was like, they're definitely gonna, and I was like, okay, well,
Once upon a
so
time.
there was this guy. he was a boat, and he did a tweet. So
I can't imagine that. That honestly is like such a gulf of linguistical
if
understanding.
you want to know the extent to this, I was talking about not about us.
Mm-hmm.
I waited to breach that, but I was talking about a news story about a Twitch streamer called Squid Game,
Right.
who their like entire life is in ruins now because of the show.
Squid Game.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
And I said Twitch streamer, and she was like, what's that? Like, what do you mean?" And I was like, "Oh my god, this
Really
is
mad.
wonderful."
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, it's
That's for
such
a while as
different,
well, right? Like,
yeah.
like someone who's chosen to check out, just to check. This isn't like a woman in her 80s.
No.
Okay, you're not
No,
doing
no.
some kind of. I mean, no judgment if you're doing one of those scams where you marry an old rich lady.
Listen, I'd love to. I don't know where
You're
to find them.
teaching this
I
woman
don't know
about
where to find them.
milkshake duck in her
No,
dying days.
she's 2 years younger than me.
So that's I mean, you have to have been checked out from an early.
I think it's like didn't check in.
Yeah.
Like didn't even bother checking in, which I think is.
That's a real
I
presence
know.
of mind.
It's strange, but yeah,
Do you think you would like to have been that person in hindsight? If you could go back in time and like tell yourself,
I'd
the first time you touched a mouse, you just knock it out of your own hand.
no, I'd be the most horrific Tory cunt.
Fair.
It's done me a lot of ill, and I've done it a lot of ill. But
You and the internet have been sparring.
I've done a lot of ill through it. But I think overall it's done me
a net positive.
it's done me a net good. Yeah.
I mean, the show would be, well, it wouldn't be much.
It wouldn't be. It would be very
very
little.
little point recording.
I wouldn't know anything about teriology if it weren't for the internet.
Real shame.
But yeah, so the internet that went for me for a while, and then I got internet back. But what I didn't have was a bed or any curtains.
Was that a sort of Faustian pact that you entered into? Where they were like, it was a monkey's paw situation.
Yeah, I'd
got
give
the internet, but
anything,
no eyes.
anything I tell you to have the web back. No, that was just a last minute necessity for somewhere to live.
Yeah.
Friend and flatmate Mark and I, after Isaac's betrayal,
Just friend now for me.
after after Isaac went out for cigarettes and never came back, we'd been looking for ages. Oh my god, ages for a place to live. And the only stipulation we had was that it not be where we currently live. And the only one of the things that we got is that it is currently where we were living.
So just like, I know lots of people who listen to this show we've spoken to in the period. It wild for a moment to think that there might be people who listen to this show who we haven't communicated with for 2 months.
Yeah.
Like there probably are, because you could be like a sort of casual listener to this show where you check in and then you don't come to Twitch or Discord and you're like, oh, they'll probably be back
They're all
sometime.
right, yeah, whenever.
They might be dead, they might just be away, who knows. But anyway, nice to see you. Welcome back.
Yeah.
You
guys are the real heroes.
Yes, I mean, honestly, that's probably a wise decision. But for those who didn't know, we moved separately to the same building.
Yeah.
About a minute from where we were previously living.
Yeah.
Not intentionally.
No. Isaac, honestly, I think was doing his best to get away from this. He's
I've
furious.
been in touch with the council. I've been reporting anonymously many times.
We are 2 floors and 3 doors
Yeah.
away from each other.
2 floors and
which
3 doors
sounds
is a
like a
good little-
BBC sitcom, doesn't it, from the 70s?
we're
It was
pitching.
definitely racist.
Yeah.
So
that's happened.
So that was a thing, yeah. We'd been looking for ages. We hadn't been able to find anywhere. And then last minute, we managed to find the place that we had. But it had no beds. But Mark had a bed.
Yeah.
I did not.
I remember carrying it.
I've been sleeping on... I was sleeping on the sofa. It was very funny because I was kind of keeping... Even before we moved flat, I was keeping some of my classes that I get on with better abreast of the whole situation.
Yeah.
And they were bless them, genuinely quite concerned for me.
They're going to do a little crowdfunder.
I think they were close to it because I told my year 11s, I was like, listen, the one thing you need to know is I'll be here. Whatever happens, I'll be here. Even if I'm sleeping in the staff room, like I'll be. And they were like, sir, no, please don't be sleeping in the staff room. It's so grim.
That's funny.
But then I'd been keeping one of my younger classes, my year 8s, abreast of the whole situation, and
just as a warning of what can happen if
yeah,
the
well,
wrong
and
life
also
choices.
it's always because it's quite nice because I see them for a double period last thing on a Thursday and for a double period last thing on a Friday, which if they were anything other than the best set possible would be hell.
tedious,
But they're actually just an exceptionally funny and clever bunch of people. So it's always nice to like have a little laugh with them. And I like to be quite like harsh with them in terms of like, I will take the piss because they can take it. But therefore it's nice for them to know that I'm happy to be the subject of derision
taken out of them by
an absolute loser. Yeah. So I was keeping them, and I think it was like, I think I might have said this on Big Bad Books, but it was like a couple of weeks ago, I said this to them about, they were like, oh, sir, have you got your curtains yet? Because that was the last thing. And I was like, funny story. No, but they're being installed on the Monday. And one of them was like, oh, sir, how come you don't have any of the things you need? Ever. She was like, it was like a phone, and then it was like the internet, and then it was a flat, and then it was a bed, and now it's curtains. And I was about to start, talking about, how these things can happen when a kid down the front went, midlife crisis. Midlife crisis. I'm 27, you cheeky cunt. Go and stand outside.
That's so funny. You've been absolutely done.
Absolutely destroyed.
That's really very good.
So yeah, it wasn't the most amazing, but then I did get some blinds installed.
Huge.
Which was huge. It's very funny. So our new landlord was someone who you put us in touch with through your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he's such a strange person.
Have you had more communication with him since?
Yeah. I don't know if I've told you.
No, I don't think
so he is one of these people who he's like relatively like a nice guy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how they get you.
Exactly. Well, and I think it's kind of how he's trying to. Yeah. I think he'd love to be a more exploitative landlord.
Yeah.
But he doesn't quite have the balls. And it's very funny.
Send him this clip and see if that changes.
Yeah. Because
I dare you.
We noticed about a day before we were due to move in, which is when we got the contract, that there was nowhere in it that explicitly said he was going to keep the deposit in a scheme. So I messaged him and I was like, look, these are a couple of things we pointed out. This one is like a big one.
Yeah.
You need to do this. And he was like,
don't you legally need to do that as well?
Yeah, I think possibly. But I couldn't be bothered to get into that. And honestly, I didn't have time. We were supposed to be moving the next day. And I was like, look, you need to put the money in the scheme. And he was like, oh, well, I was thinking, and I was like,
I was thinking what?
Yeah,
what
you do need to do
you're buying
this.
Doge.
Yeah.
I'll cut you guys in 5%.
And he went, here's the link to the place that I normally put it. I was like, fine. I looked it up and it was all like kosher.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, lovely. So then after we moved in, we didn't really receive any notice that it was in a scheme. I was like,
that's weird.
That's interesting. So I sort of like mentioned it to him and he was like, oh, right. Yep. I'll get on that. Definitely. Fantastic. And then we had the whole palaver with the curtains. He tried to come and put a curtain rod in, but it turns out behind the wall is adamantium.
Wow.
So you can't get through it.
Very cool.
And then he came round to install the blinds and he was like, oh, I thought we'd have a chat about the deposit. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
What do you want to talk about, bud?
And yeah, like I say, so he's one of these people where he'll try something that's a little bit shady.
Yeah, but back down from it quickly.
But if you offer any kind of resistance, he will just go back down.
That's worse, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's shameful.
It is, isn't it? It's
or
cowardly.
shameless. No, it's shameful. Yeah. So another example of this early on was when we came to look at the flat, the room that's my room.
Yeah.
Had these like 3 huge wardrobes in it because his girlfriend or his wife or whatever works in fashion. And I was like, well, I have maybe 9 pieces of clothing to my name.
Yeah.
I don't need this. It's just taking up room. And Mark doesn't have a wardrobe. Is there anything we could do about that? And he was like, yeah. He's like, we could leave this one in yours, take this one off the end, put it in Mark's, and then completely just dismantle the middle one.
Yeah. That's a great solution.
Fantastic solution. He was like, yep, I can do that. When we turn up on the day to move in, there's 3 wardrobes in my room. And he said in such a like muttering under my breath so that I don't maybe have to, like trying to like get away with it, like I could do that today, but I just went, oh, that'd be fantastic. And he went, well, you know, I don't want to get in your way because you've got, and I was like, it's absolutely fine. We've got loads of shit to do back at the old flat. So it'll be good if that'll be fantastic. And that'll give you a chance to like get that done without us sort of being in your way.
Yeah, nice.
And he was like, yeah, I mean, I could do that today. That's fantastic. Thanks very much, man. So he did that. So he came in and he was like, can we have a word? He just put the blind up. He's like, can we have a word about the deposit? I was like, yeah, sure.
He's been reading some sort of book, I bet, about like how to sort of do an alpha stance, like sitting with his knees apart.
I just went and sat on the sofa and just didn't offer him a seat, and he just had to stand.
Like he's doing a presentation.
Yeah, like he was pitching it to me. And I had a beer and I was just sort of sat there going, yeah, what's this? And he was like, look,
what are you thinking?
Look, you know this. I'm not here to screw you guys over. You're not here to screw me over.
No. Oh no, I actually am.
I think, it's all gone really, really well so far. I was like, yeah, it really has. That's been fantastic.
Let's not ruin it.
Yeah, he went. And all I think is, you're only here on like a shorter term kind of like lease possibly. And I'm just thinking at the other end, it saves like a load of bureaucracy.
Yeah, oh my God, it's such a hassle filling out that one form.
Yeah, it's like, it saves a lot of bureaucracy. The way I see it, like we could just go round, I'll come round on the day of checkout, we'll go round together, we'll point out like, and I'm not bothered about, like this or that. I mean like, are you going to fuck up the sofa? Like, are you going to, and we'll just come to an agreement between us then on the day, and I'll send you the money there and then before you're even out the door, and that'll be it.
That's a great argument. I mean, I'm sold.
And I said,
can I give him my deposit?
Yeah. He would take it.
Yeah, I bet.
And I just said, yeah, I understand. And I mean, that sounds like a great way to do it. I hope that the checkout can be pretty much exactly that. It's just, no landlord comes around and says, I'm here to screw you over. And I would assume very few tenants do the same.
Yeah.
But the thing is if, for example, just a hypothetical, you did try to do that, and then we go and ask any of the lovely charities who deal with this sort of situation for help, and they say, "Oh, what scheme did he put your deposit in?" And we go,
it was
none.
It was the Bitcoin scheme.
It was a current account. Then we're fucked.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do, and we look like divs.
Yeah.
And so I'm very happy to have like 2 weeks extra wait at the end of the tenancy if it means that it's there. And he's like, no, like I get you. And I see that. He's like, that
fascinated to know the counter argument.
It was the exact same thing here. It was, that I'm not here to screw you over.
Yeah,
and
we covered that.
And I just said like, you must see that the argument, I'm not here to screw you over, does somewhat undermine the point that you're not here to screw us over, when the thing that we're asking you to do is something that is a protection for us.
Also, I mean, the only reason you would not want to put in a scheme, it's not like, I don't think they have to pay anything to put in a scheme.
They do not, no.
And I don't think it obviously doesn't make it harder because we've done it a bunch of times. The only reason can be,
he wants
I want to steal your money.
He wants the 1,500 quid in his account.
Yeah.
So that was, and I just sort of sat there. I did the thing of like, I'm actually not going to say anymore.
Yeah, that's the move. That's the move for sure. Let him
the old Louis Theroux, let him stew.
Yeah.
And he was like, but yeah, we can put it in scheme if you want. Like, oh yeah, that would be fantastic.
That sounds good. Actually,
that'd be fantastic. Yeah, thanks
Make
very
him
much.
think he came up with that idea.
Yeah.
Good work.
We could put it in a scheme. Like a sort of a scheme for protecting deposits, like
from
a deposit
nasty,
protection
filthy thief
scheme.
landlord scums. Yeah,
From my
let's do that.
scum-sucking land. Well, no offense.
Just a hypothetical scum-sucking landlord.
One thing I realised that we've omitted from the story so far.
Joe's back. He tried to kill us.
and we've got a 5-part.
It's not true. It's not true.
No, is the saga of the television.
Oh yeah, that was
because we've made it sound like once the days for Move came along, it was plain sailing.
People at home, just imagine everything that can go wrong in the process, and then it's those things.
Well, so a key one was that Mark and I were holding out for a hero, in the form of an affordable flat in a convenient location. No such hero turned up. But we had made a sort of like proviso with the old landlords that we could maybe stay in the old flat for about sort of like 10 to 14 days, paid, of course.
Oh yeah.
After the sort of official tenancy had ended, if we hadn't been able to find a place. We had a couple of places that we put in offers on, and then in the last day they fell through. And we sent an email to the old landlords being like, cool, we would like to take advantage of this. If you could, let us know what the deal is. That was on a Friday. That was the last day of the tenancy. And we just did not hear from them until the next Tuesday. So we're technically squatting
nice.
in a flat.
You've got great protection as squatters, though.
Oh, fantastic.
It's one of the few interestingly pro-tenant things about housing law in the UK.
Yeah, I'd love to know why.
Hard. Yeah,
I'd love to know why.
It must be vestigial, and people must be trying every day.
It must be next on the list.
Yeah,
it must be next on the list to go.
Yeah.
It was prescribe Hamas and then squatters'
Get
rights.
fox hunting back.
Make
it actually mandatory for everyone to be armed.
You have to kill at least one fox a year.
Club, yeah.
So we finally, heard something from them. We arranged to stay there. And one of the things that we had arranged was for the huge TV that we had been renting for a couple of years to be collected.
Really a centerpiece of the flat.
It absolutely, it genuinely was.
Held the whole place together. Especially through lockdown.
Which is perhaps a good reason as to why it stayed with us for the entire time. So you'd tried once before to have it collected before the end of the tenancy, and why don't you say
time to do it? I think.
Well, it was a fantastic idea. Why don't you say what happened there?
Well, what happened was the person who came to collect it was one man here to collect a TV that's at least I would say a 3-person move.
I can tell you,
he didn't have a forklift or a
forklift.
He didn't have a forklift. He didn't have what's it called, a trolley.
I was expecting him to drive it into the flat out of the lift.
JCB right up the stairs. He didn't have anything, and I opened the door and he was like, hello, I'm here to collect something.
Some might say that he had arrived having decided he wasn't going to take it.
Did have the vibe of someone who wasn't very interested in having the TV taken out of the flat and into his custody for any period of time. But it was a very short visit, which is amazing. I was like, oh, it's going to be hard to take the TV. And he was like, is it? I was like, yeah, have a look at it. And he was like, yeah, I can't take it. Just left.
That is difficult.
It was difficult because he didn't show that kind of Dunkirk spirit. I think if he and I really wanted to, we could have got down, picked up that TV between us and maybe made something of ourselves, but it wasn't up for
our forefathers on Normandy Beach. They'd have taken the TV.
They would have done it.
They would have taken the TV.
But no, so that didn't work, and it turned out they changed.
Yeah, what was the reason for that?
They changed all the big rules about it. You had to have a box that we didn't have.
Yeah, it seemed like. Correct me if I'm wrong here, that the one company that ran the whole thing had been taken over by sort of 2 companies. One who did all the telephones and organising, and one who did the physical.
It was a bit
like
one of those logic puzzles where it's like, I live in a blue house, but not next to the red house where Mrs. Gray lives. It's like you have to talk to one person to arrange the collection, but only the other person will be able to explain the rules of the collection to you, and only half of them, because they're contingent on whoever actually arrives knowing any amount of them in any
Kafka himself could not have created a less helpful television rental company.
Yeah, it took a long time.
Yeah,
to the point that it travelled with us across to the new place.
Because it seemed to be that they wanted it packaged in a box that they had taken when they dropped off the television.
And it's quite, I can't put too fine a point on it, large.
It's a huge television. There's no other thing that comes in a box like this.
It's not like you just have one lying around.
Or that, you could go to a shop and buy something else and put it in that thing's box.
Shape.
There's no other thing.
They basically seemed to want us to buy another television, take the box, return it maybe not, and then use that one to transport it.
Well, I mean, which in the end is pretty much what happened.
It is.
But yeah, so we arranged another date. That was the day before we were supposed to move out.
Again, a very sensible time.
Yeah. After the end of the official tenancy, but before the end of the second less official but not unofficial tenancy. The appendix tenancy. So that one I was in the flat for.
Yeah.
Now you
made a little friend.
You gave me a little call on the telephone.
Because I got woken up super early. I was not happy about it, but I had expected it was going to happen. And the guy sounded a bit grumpy, I have to say. Maybe it was because it was early.
Maybe that's
it's because
unfair of you.
he was just so excited to take the TV. He was like just raring to get there. He was like,
jumping
come
for
on,
joy.
come on, where is it? And he was like, can you let me in? I was like, are you at the flat? And he wasn't yet. So it
interesting.
really seemed like
The answer then is no.
the answer is I can't let you in because I don't live there and you're not there.
It's
and
like-
those are two of the main ways.
Who is
for
it?
this
Is it
interaction
like
to take place.
Sartre, where it's the philosophical problem about like,
The
can you
keyhole.
have a, or no, I was thinking like, can you have a cake without cream if they don't sell cream? Like,
Yeah, it did have the vibe of a sort of puzzle.
am I denying you entry if I say I can't let you in, but you're not there?
Yeah, and so eventually, I guess did he call you? Or did he just ring the bell?
No. He rang you again, and you said he's there. You need to let him in.
Yeah.
And at which point the bell had just rung, and I just allowed him into the building.
Yeah, he was pretty on it, I would say, from an efficiency standpoint. Like he was clearly
I wouldn't say that.
super excited to get up to there to get the TV.
I would
Maybe he
not
had a
agree.
personal connection to the TV.
I would
and it was
not
like-
agree.
It could have been his TV, and he was waiting to be reunited.
If so, this TV abused him. He turned up. Like, I don't expect people to have to be
the American
happy,
kind of cheerful.
go lucky. No. But I would always, with anyone who's coming to the door, answer with a sense of cheer.
Yeah,
Even if it is 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. My least favourite
One of the
time
most offensive
ever
times
to be awake. And thus I did. He didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he'd done like, yeah, whatever, like let's get this done, like then that's fine. Cool.
Yeah.
He just didn't say anything. I beckoned him into the flat. Now we had the big box because you had rented another TV.
yeah. That gave us a spare box.
Yeah, I think kicked that can down the road. Yeah.
for sure.
So we'd got that box, but because mine and Mark's work schedules are entirely out of sync, in that he works at night and I work in the day, and never the twain shall meet.
Yeah.
It wasn't yet in the box, and I was thinking that me and this guy would, just sort of
Team up.
lift it the 1 yard to the left that it
Like
needed
the
to
Avengers might do.
go.
Which is not an unreasonable thing to think, given that when it was delivered, they put the whole thing up. They insisted that I couldn't help. I was like, I know how to help.
I could do no.
They were like, no, you can't. We
You
are
mustn't.
here to serve you, and we love you, sir. They said.
And I think that might have been a different guy.
Did you get a different vibe? Did the guy not love you?
He came in, and before I'd even said anything, he said very much like the first man. He said, "Can't take it.
Fuck.
Can't take that."
Why's
And I was
that,
like,
sir?
and I said, "Why?" And the first reason he gave was it's still plugged in.
That's a really easy fix.
And that's what I said. I said, "Well, that's fine." Vroom, vroom.
Nice.
It's no
Good
longer
problem
plugged
solver.
in. So can we lift it? He went, "It's not packaged." I went, "I know, but you can possibly see this enormous fucking box right here. Like it goes in there. Let's just pop it in there. Like, and you could take it." And he went, And I went, "Well, can you help me put it in there?" And he went, "I can,
Yeah.
but I don't have to." Which is a sentence
It's very annoying.
that only a cunt could say.
It's a very mean and annoying sentence.
And I think I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that he maybe hadn't meant to say that.
Yeah.
Because I assumed that you just wouldn't
Yeah.
say that. That was my foolish assumption.
Yeah.
I'll grant you that. I was like, right, but it does need to go, and you are here to collect it. I hate to use this argument, but it is literally your job to take the television right now. This is the second time that someone has had to come and take the television and has said, "I'm not going to take the television. So please, will you?" And he went, and he again just said, "I can, but I don't have to."
You'd reached the end of his dialogue.
That was, yeah.
He hadn't been scripted to do any more events. They hadn't added the lifts up TV.
Yeah, ever since What's Their
Package.
Name went under, you
So
can't
easy.
get any more. And it just reached a point where I just said, like, is there something you want? Like, are
You
you
gonna
trying?
bribe him?
Well, that was
You
it.
gonna fuck this
I was
guy?
like, are you angling for a bribe? Do you
I will
want
give you
20 quid?
£1.
Do you want me to suck you off? Like, what needs to happen for the TV?
We can watch TV
for the
together.
TV to go. You can
adopt
witness the glory of the television. I'll take your niece to prom. Like, what do you need to happen for this? And he went, "I need it to be packaged." I went, yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
I wasn't asking you so you could fucking sass me out. Like, what needs to happen so that you could take the TV. And he just went, well, I can't. I'm not going to.
He circumvented the
And then he
question.
just turned and I can't stress this enough, ran out of the flat.
Wow.
Like he jogged out of the flat, which was a really funny thing to do because he then didn't go down the stairs but pressed the button and waited for the lift. So I was just able to walk, catch up to him, call him a cunt,
Well,
and
of
then
course.
close and lock the door.
Very nice.
But then we again had this sort of weird Kafka-esque situation of trying to book another one.
It took so many attempts. I was on the phone to these people for so long.
And then I had to ring them. But then we didn't exist. And none of our names... Do you know what it was? In the end, it was that they were asking what you were called.
What, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said Isaac.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, it would be Isaac BD. And then I gave you full name.
Yeah.
And then it turned out like, oh, you didn't specify that there was a hyphen in here. Like
Shut
that's,
the fuck
and I was
up.
like, fuck off.
Also, I definitely did. Because
Yeah.
I am very fastidious about the hyphen.
Yeah, no. It was that I didn't
Oh, I
specify
see,
that there was a
I see.
hyphen in there. I should have done that because you always pronounce the hyphen.
You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't expect that you'd have given them your full name at all. After the story of you being booked in the hairdressers under Isaac ? I assumed that this was just something you'd have given up on entirely.
Yeah.
So I eventually got through, and the woman who I actually booked it with was very lovely, but I was filled with so much hate from the previous experiences that at the end I just laid down a small law, which you can do. I don't know if you know, the Magna Carta says if you say a law over the telephone,
It's binding.
that's it.
That's so
Someone's
good.
got to
I
agree.
fucking love that
It's
Magna.
it's like if you accept the king's coin and
Yeah.
now that's it.
It's
Whatever
like that thing the
whatever that
Freemen
guy
say where it's
said.
like, do you understand the law? And you're supposed to say no because that means that you stand under it and you accept that
Yeah.
you aren't allowed to drive without tax.
and you've
Crucially,
been
you
done.
are.
So I just said, like, I need to make it clear that so far we've tried to have this collected twice and both times
Yeah.
the guys have run away.
To the point that, as well, like in the intervening period, we had to transport this television on a tiny little dolly. Well, you did.
Yeah.
across like a quite busy road.
Like a very busy main road.
Cobbles.
Yeah,
just
cobbles,
everything.
those little things that let blind people know there's a zebra crossing,
Yeah.
all of this sorts of stuff.
There's a whole vibe.
Ambulances, all of this. So it had been such a fucking trial, and it was just sat in the box in our living room. And I just said, like, and she cut across me to go, well, it says that both those times it wasn't, and I'm like, I'm going to stop you there and say
Please.
that I don't care.
Please
It
don't.
does not matter. It was fine.
Yeah.
It was indeed as you left it with us,
Yeah,
which
well,
is as
more.
much as we could do.
We'd given
or
you an
more.
extra box.
And I was like, so what I'm going to say is,
Have you heard of
if the
finders keepers?
if the television does not leave, they say that possession is 9/10 of the law.
And I'm going to add that final 10th and
This
own
is-
this fucking TV.
It will become my
I will
television,
rename it in the
not
settings.
your television. Crucially, it will not be the case. And I was like, because the thing is that even if you send a bailiff round to take the TV, I kind of still win.
And they just wouldn't have known where you'd gone to at this point.
No, well, they would because they had to know the address to pick up the TV.
Fair.
But weirdly, you wouldn't believe it.
Go on.
That time, no problems.
Third time's a charm.
Weirdly, no problems. Even though apparently it was the smallest man on earth who came to pick up the
Really?
television by himself again,
Wow.
with no trolley. And
He's
Mark
absolute
offered to
tragedy
help him,
downstairs.
and he just went,
I've
no,
got
just
this."
dragged it into a lift. I'm hoping that he was just someone who overheard us on the phone and like came to
Bobbed
mugged
it.
us. Yeah,
That's really good.
20 minutes later, the guys from the company turn up.
So what I want everyone to take from this is that we're all settled in now. Everything's in its rightful place, the way that God intended for it to be. And this ushers in a new era of content, I'm hearing.
Is
on the
that
grapevine.
That's so strange because I heard a very similar thing.
I heard that Big Bad Books is back. Some critics have said with a bang.
A big bang
Big
book.
I don't like that. I don't love that. I didn't particularly
A
enjoy
bang
that.
of big bad books.
Certainly, maybe. That could be it. And others are saying that That's a Shame also has some great stuff lined up. Why don't you tell us about some of that?
Well, what we will have lined up is quite possibly a guest.
A guest on the Big
guest
Bad Books?
on the Big Bad Books pod. No, not on
on
Big Bad
That's
Books.
a Shame?
On That's a Shame podcast.
Oh, really?
No guests on Big Bad
Fuck
Books.
that.
No one wants to go on.
The only guest I would allow is Ernest Cline.
Yeah.
To answer
Until
for his
he
Ernest
or
crimes.
Chuck Wendig.
Yeah, that'd be
No, I don't want to talk to him.
No.
I could not.
He would.
He
He
was-
would be so upsetting to
He
be
was
honest.
back in the public eye for a terrible
Is he still on
tweet.
Twitter? 'Cause I blocked him.
He was back in the public eye for a terrible tweet, and I drafted an entire quote tweet from the Big Bad Books account for it, and I just in the end I decided not to choose.
He'd get off on it. He
would love it. Yeah, he would love it. And
if
I was
he
just,
listened to you when you were sort of exalting his book tips, he would be tumescent. Like the man would ejaculate multiple times.
and he'd write about it in a big listicle.
He'd write with it. He'd use his pen as a great
Oh
big.
no!
Yeah.
Don't say that
No,
on
I
some
won't.
black card.
Yeah, I shan't follow that thought any further. Who's this mystery guest?
Well, it's someone who's a big fan of the old Ancient Giant Tree Truth community.
Okay.
And has been following their antics
That must-
for longer than we have.
That must be a very, very specific role to fill in this big world. To
Yeah.
be like the expert.
Yeah,
Who we're
exactly.
reaching for. Do we have that kind of pull?
We do.
Fuck
You
yes.
wouldn't believe it. We do.
Fuck yes, even
Or at least we
after all
did
these
when the idea was broached.
Nice.
Who knows now? But
be
yeah,
huge.
there's some good stuff there. There's going to be some incredible content happening over at twitch.tv/ShameCity.
Monday to
or
Thursday at 9 o'clock,
Shame.city/Twitch.
Yeah.
We're playing the new Daniel Mullins game Inscription.
So good.
Isaac, where in the list of games does it rank?
Everyone's saying game of the year, and I have to go with them on that. It's goatee. It's been goatee.
It was exceptional.
Yeah, and we've only just started.
Yeah, it feels like it's longer than the others.
Should we, on That's a Shame, this has been a very informal episode. This is not what the
God.
show's normally like.
No,
Should
not
we
normally.
recommend some good things that people might like to look at and
Go
do?
on, yeah.
Well, Inscription's my one, so what's yours? Rip.
I've been big back into reading.
Yeah, I mean, you should talk a bit about that because we don't really talk about it on Big Bad Books,
No.
which is largely an anti-reading show.
Yeah. I've been big back into reading, and then even more recently, little back into writing.
Nice.
But three things that I have read recently are The Vegetarian by Han Kang,
I fucking love that book.
which is exceptional.
Horrible, isn't it?
Very, very despicable.
Yeah, I read that in one. I started reading it when I was on holiday, in bed to try and fall asleep, and it's so short, right? I stayed up
Very
until
brief.
like a bad time to finish it, though. Like,
Yeah.
it was the time for breakfast.
The time for breakfast or Ghosts, the tail end of
after
Ghosts.
you finish Vegetarian, you're not in a huge food mood.
No,
I
definitely
noticed.
not. Definitely not.
Yeah, I would recommend that.
Very, very despicable book. Very lovely. I don't know about you. It had, certainly in the first and second parts, it had for me big kind of like Lolita vibes. That
Yeah,
sort of
I mean,
like,
very different subject matter, but
Yeah.
but a similar sort of.
still that idea of like abuse kind of abstracted through the lens of the abuser
Yeah.
kind of idea.
Yeah, very interesting book.
Not necessarily sold it as a laugh a minute there, but it's exceptionally
It's
good.
quite funny as well in places.
Yes.
Not necessarily those places.
I then read a series of short stories called Things to Make and Break. And I cannot remember the name of the author, so I'm going to look it up while I talk about it. But I am always suspicious
Yeah.
when I am recommended short story books, because I have a very specific type of short story that I like, which is
How do you
that
characterise them?
I don't want anything to happen.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's my thing. It's by Mei Lan Tan.
Okay.
And from sentence number 3, I was entirely hooked. Very, very good. And in a refreshing change of pace for the show, one of the first things I've read ever that managed to have a kind of like good approach to writing sex. Because there's a lot. It's a very horny book, a deeply horny book.
Yeah.
But I think what worked for it as a whole is that it's about good sex and also about bad sex itself. Whereas what I find is that most of the bad
Bad
sex
sex in fiction is usually about good sex.
it's about
in
good sex
fiction.
written but badly, whereas a lot of this was bad sex written well. But some fantastic character studies, some really like mentally, really mental stories that were sort of like disparately themed, but all around this kind of like same central like tenet of doubles and like repeated histories and stuff.
Very cool.
Like, I think the first one is about a girl who becomes obsessed with her boyfriend's ex-girlfriends, but just like starts like following and just tries to like meet one.
Uh-huh.
Then there's one about like two people who both have the same name, and it's just like tells like two of their days that have nothing to do with each
That's
other
cool,
at the same time. Yeah, it's really, really good book. The third and final that I mentioned on stream a couple of times is I read Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian, which I'd started, I think, twice and got only like 20 pages in and then had like failed to like endeavor with it. Not because of anything to do with the book, but just because I was very bad at committing to reading anything.
Hard.
But it was exceptional. It was the first time in a few years that I finished reading something and felt that kind of like depression of I don't have any more pages of this left to read.
That is bad. I can write you some if you want.
If you want, yeah, please. And the thing the thing that I think is especially kind of annoying about it is like my favorite author is Don DeLillo, and if I finish Don DeLillo, I know that I will feel sad that book has ended, but I can pick up another one, and there's more of it. Whereas with McCarthy, like he writes so differently in all of his books. Like I've read The Road and I've read No Country for Old Men as well, and all three are just completely different. No Country for Old Men is they share like a central thing, which is that they're all very like direct. There's no room in those books. Like everything is relentlessly just driven forwards. But I mean, No Country for Old Men especially, like every single sentence is just like new thing happening. There's not a lot of flowery description at all. Blood Meridian was the same thing happening for like 350 pages mostly, but described in the most unfathomably beautiful ways, despite the fact that what was happening was a lot of racially motivated murder over and over again. And the ending, I should say, is one of the most horrific things I've ever read.
Wow.
But in the best way possible, Cormac, if you're listening.
Thanks, Cormac. Always appreciated it.
So yeah, why don't you speak about what else we're up to?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question is the main reason.
Well, you've been getting big on the puzzle hype, haven't you?
Big into Abel's boy, Kane.
Yeah, I remember him. They got on
quite well, and then suddenly there was something of a rift that I imagine being like the PR for Kane, trying to smooth over. Look, they've had some creative differences
all throughout history. All brothers,
yeah, at one point do kill the other. There's this book everyone should know about called Kane's Jawbone by a guy called Edward Power something Mathis or some bullshit like that. It's a funny name.
In the past, they were called bullshit.
They had long names, silly names.
Yeah, very
Torquemada is what he was known by because that was his name that he made for crossword setting. It's this 100-page book that the conceit of which is that it's a murder mystery novel where the pages have all been printed out of order, and your job is to put them in the right order, find what happened, who killed whom, things like that. And it's all I can think about and do at the moment, and will be until I solve it or die. One of the two.
But it's relatively simple to solve, so your chances of solving it... It's one
of the most solved puzzles in the whole scheme of puzzles that have only been solved 4 times, I think.
Yeah.
Of
those, it's one of the most solvable.
So that's what I'm about at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd recommend it because I think you think it's a real sort of rabbit hole. It'd be a bit like recommending someone try heroin. Just see what that's like.
I would say that like the name of it is so perfect in that it has the name of like how Infinite Jest is about a video called Infinite Jest that if you watch it you go mad. Like Kane's Jawbone sounds like if you were reading a book about a puzzle that drove people mad, it would be called Kane's Jawbone.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's definitely written by someone. It's cool, actually. It's made me think about, like, legacy, because he died really young, I think. He died when he was, like, 30s or 40s.
You're not announcing a sort of suicide
what
here,
I'm going to do is
you're not far
this,
away from the big 3-0.
and then jump right off. No, I think it's just what a cool way to like cement your place in history. Because the reason that this puzzle came on my radar was courtesy of a good friend of the Twitch stream, and primarily that's where I know her from, at least. Who saw it on TikTok, and this TikTok has blown up and had like millions of views, and this book that was written in like 1934 or something is now sold out worldwide, And what an incredible legacy for a person to have, that 100 years odd after you've died, you've got like people who now have just an unfathomably different lifestyle and set of, you know, resources at their
Access to
fingertips.
knowledge.
Yeah. Looking up some of the weirdest ephemera of the very specific moment that you existed, and being like sort of frustrated in the same way that the people at the time would have been. I think it's a much more interesting, because you know me, I hate history. I think it sucks. I have a real antipathy to the past.
Yeah.
But
It's something we share.
I've come to appreciate it through the lens of like, there is something about this puzzle mode that makes you experience it in a very different way from just hearing about it passively.
Well, I think it's what you said. I think it's the specificity of it. Like, it's always interesting to hear about a very specific time and place, like some specific thing, or like way of life or whatnot, rather than like the Tudors.
Yeah. But
it's
like tricking me into learning stuff. Like,
Oh.
I've been going down
I
all
wouldn't
kinds of
recommend it.
Wikipedia rabbit holes.
My favorite thing is that I like to think of like, if you were able to go back in time and tell him that no one was going to give 3 fucks about his book until there was an app that was mostly used for teenagers to dance on, and then it was going to fucking kick off.
Yeah, it will sell out.
Yeah.
It probably has sold more copies in the last
Didn't you say that it's like doubled its lifetime sales or something?
Well,
at least
it was republished because the book was like lost, I think, for a really long time, and then it was found by someone who was affiliated with the Lawrence Stern like trust or house or something, because I guess it's sort of a bit similar to, is it Tristram Shandy, his one, that's all like bullshit, like references and things, very dense, hard to read kind of book. And then I think they solved it. But anyway, it was lost for ages, republished a few years ago, and it was republished through Unbound, which is it's like Kickstarter for books, as I understand it. You like pitch a project, and then it's sort of it's almost like it's almost like printed to order, I think, for the very small ones for independent authors. But this one got like a decent print sale. I mean, it had like 250 the first time I looked. Let's see what it has now. Unbound.com sold out 9. Okay, so it's like 400% higher than it was before. It's coming up to 1,000 sales just from this one website, but it's sold out on like Amazon worldwide. I've been following like Twitter to see people talking about it, because there's a really funny crossover of people. I think if you're the kind of person who thinks you can do really well at solving this puzzle, you either are very good or you're
really
nuts.
the worst person.
And
you're not quite certain on words.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of people tweeting stuff about it, like, I'm going to be the next person to solve it. P.S. What is Rochester? Or something. Like, okay, well, it's going to be a while. But yeah, I mean, how wild that it's just sparked this big revisiting of a text that was otherwise forgotten. It's very cool though. Would recommend. If it sounds like it's up your street, it definitely is. If it sounds like you would hate it, then you would fucking
stay away.
Hate it.
Yeah,
because it's dense nonsense primarily.
But that's what we deal in. That's
a shame way. Dense nonsense.
Very much our wheelhouse. Yeah,
for sure. Have we got anything else going on? In this episode?
I don't think so. I think it might be a nice time. 50 minutes or so. So
that's fine. A
lovely time to end a little catch-up episode.
Spiritual.
Next week, we'll be back with Big Bad Books. Yeah. Last week's episode, goodness me, there was all sorts going on.
I felt real sense of whiplash after finishing it.
It was what critics are calling an og-centric episode.
Yeah.
Which is not a pun on eccentric.
No,
it just literally meant centralised og. Who knows what it could be next week. Week after that, we'll have another episode of That's a Shame, but a more typical episode.
This has been, as you can tell, we just wanted to catch up.
But that was intentional. We should let you know that was intentional. It wasn't that we had nothing or anything.
This was scripted.
We're not going back to the old ways.
I want to make that clear.
Yeah, this is like a fucking Mike Lee production.
We're on page 83 at the moment. And then I say this, and then I say this, and then I turn the page.
If you would like to get involved in more of our stuff, or if you'd like, some of this in written form, I suppose, then you can follow us at Shame City on Twitter. The
Shame City Gang.
Is it Shame City Gang? Yeah, so. At Shame City Gang on Twitter, of course. And we're at That's a Shame Cast for this specific show, at Big Bad Books for, you wouldn't believe it, for Big Bad Books.
Yep.
Then if you can join the Discord, shame.city/Discord. There's all sorts of channels. There's a channel for Kane's Jawbone.
Yeah, if you want to get
Shame's
involved.
Jawbone, I've just found out it's called. Very good idea. Did you get the tooth emoji involved at all?
I literally did. Let me just show you that for some bit of live proof.
I
There
did.
you go. It
I
is the
did think
truth.
that you might be doing
There's
that.
no jawbone emoji. The cowards at Unicode haven't responded to my email so far.
For 5 years now. So join in
pleasure.
over there. You don't have to join the puzzle chat. You
Yeah,
can join.
You get access to that one first, and then if you contribute enough, we let you.
You can let you
filter
into the rest of
hoi
the
polloi.
bullshit we're doing. Shame.city/Twitch or twitch.tv/shamecity.
Yeah.
Like Isaac said earlier, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m.
And you can catch Declan on a big stream.
Yeah, I
What do you
am.
call that?
I will confirm times later. I presume 6 to 9.
But check out Shame
ne-
City Gang for details.
Yeah, that'll be Sunday the 28th.
Because what are you doing?
I'm going to be on Sinan's stream.
Yeah.
SK the Crusader
Yeah. Big Twitter presence.
is his. Yeah, I can't remember which one's his Twitter and which one's his Twitch.
Yeah.
But either way, if you type that into Google, you'll fucking find him somehow. Let me tell you.
Declan is the warm-up act for QC
Yeah.
Trojan Warm.
As often I've thought was my calling.
Yeah, you keep opening for him.
So yeah, I'm going to be there. He's going to be playing some Pokemon, and I'm going to be talking about it.
Yeah.
It's going to be fantastic.
There's
it was
lots
really good
going
fun
on.
last time. There's loads happening. We're just trying. What we're saying is
Yeah.
we're back.
We're back in a big way, and we're wrenching ourselves back up onto the waterfall of content, unzipping our. Well, I don't know where that's going.
Well, that's
and
worried about
unleashing
this.
a torrent
We didn't discuss this.
of pure
This is the first time
hot,
hearing
liquid content.
God.
And not just forwards, and not just sideways.
I'm going-
in the 360 degrees fountainous.
I'm going to get my lawyers to take a look before I agree, but it sounds
something like
it
that.
sounds okay.
There's a torrent of hot content.
There's
spewing from our lawyers.
there's something coming from you right now. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And if you want to keep involved with it, well, you already are. But just do more of that, and God will be with you. I know that to be a fact.
Wow.
Until
Huge revelations on the
next-
comeback
Till
stream.
the next God-based episode. I've been Isaac. You've been.
I've been Declan.
Keep on jawing.
Take care, guys.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder, my new home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. Come to you.